Hey everybody, what is going on? Thank you all so much for tuning in. I did want to go ahead and bring you all some updates about the case with Sam Ronan. Once again, if you do not know who Sam Ronan is, he was a candidate for the DNC, that is the Democratic National Committee. He was the candidate for their chair position. Many of you may remember him from running against Keith Ellison and Tom Perez. Ultimately, obviously, Tom Perez won, but Sam did not stop there. He decided also to run for Ohio's 1st District for the U.S. House of Representatives. And although he started out in the Democratic primary, he actually decided that it would be a better strategy to continue to talk about progressive values and progressive policies, but to run as a Republican because it was perceived that their Republican candidate, Shabbat, was actually vulnerable. And this is something that was perceived by both not only Sam, but the Democratic Party in general and the Green Party as well. So that's a little background on who Sam Ronan is and what he's done in the past. But there are a few updates that I wanted to bring to you all, and then hopefully we can get some context to the situation and to understand why we should be at least a little worried about what's going on with him based off of the politics surrounding the issue. So Sam was arrested on live stream on Facebook Live by a couple of police officers who would not tell him why he was being arrested. According to reports, he pulled into his apartment complex, got out the car, and they were yelling at him and pointing tasers at him and telling him to get on the ground. When he asked why he was being arrested, they did not give him any information whatsoever. They just kept yelling for him to get on the ground. When they read him his Miranda rights, they still didn't tell him what he was being arrested for. It made absolutely no sense whatsoever, actually. None of it did. Sam refused to allow them to detain him without giving him a legitimate reason as to why they are arresting him to begin with, why he was being harassed by them. But they didn't give him a reason. They just tackled him, wrestled him, and choked him to the ground. One of the officers was named Randy Piegler. I actually reached out to him. However, he has not returned with any comments. He hasn't given me. I asked him specifically, why were you all asked to approach Sam? What was the initial charge? What was the probable cause for you even initiating contact with Sam? What business was he obstructing? The business that apparently landed him with a 5th-degree felony of obstruction of business. And why wasn't his charge read to him while his Miranda rights were being covered? Because that's typically what you do. When you have Miranda rights read to you, you're supposed to have the actual charge read to you. Hey, XYZ, you're being arrested for ABC, and you go from there. So that's not what happened, clearly. He was wrestled to the ground, and I'm on the record saying Sam had every right in the world to resist, and in fact, he wasn't resisting arrest. According to the Supreme Court, for all intents and purposes, Sam was resisting a kidnapping. He had no idea why he was being arrested, and he was clearly being wrongfully arrested. And according to the Supreme Court, Sam would have the right to take those officers' lives if he felt the need to do so in order to protect his being. So, no, he should not have complied. Sam is a high-profile politician running in a district that is up for grabs, or who ran in a district, I should say, that is up for grabs, who is helping out in a campaign for the Green Party in a gubernatorial race that is currently up for grabs. So, no, he should not have complied. I'm extremely happy that he recorded on Facebook Live. I truly believe it'll be thrown out. Now, here's where the issues begin. Sam was arrested on Friday. Surprisingly enough to me, he got an arraignment for his felony charge, but it looks like it was reduced to a misdemeanor potentially. And the reason I say that is because he has three $60,000 bonds that were attached to his charges. Now, in 99% of cases, based off of personal experience, a felony bond is not going to be anywhere close to a misdemeanor bond. But I mean, we could take it a step further in saying that the fact that he has a $60,000 bond per misdemeanor charge is disgusting. This is clearly, I mean, I doubt that Sam's the only one who has fell victim to this system in Ohio. Ohio is one of those states where, you know, they're teetering along that rust belt. The industries have been removed largely, so that means the small cities are suffering more than most. And the way they make money is by arresting people. So to have a $60,000 bond put on you is for all three of the charges is egregious, and it looks like it was done on purpose. He doesn't know when his court date is because he hasn't had an arraignment for the other two charges, to my knowledge. And you know, I'm in contact with the Green Party that he's working with in Ohio, and I'm also in contact with his former campaign manager. But just to give you some context as to why I personally believe that this is a political attack, and why the people who work with him believe the same. So, for those of you who did not know, Sam was in the midst of signing a contract with the Green Party to consult for the Constance campaign. Constance is running for governor out of Ohio. And obviously, Ohio is a very, very, very important state when you're talking about the 2020 elections. And if a Democrat, for example, could be unseated and replaced with a progressive, or have his vote split and therefore having a Republican in office, then that could be problematic. But it didn't just really stop there, nor did it start there. The truth of the matter is, District 1 of Ohio is much more complicated than what people tend to think. And I'm sure that Sam knows how important the district is, but I don't think the rest of the country knows. So that district is held by a guy named Shabbat, okay? He's a Republican. And in 2014, he actually went unopposed. He won in 2016 by a substantial margin. And then, obviously, you all know, Sam announced that he would be running for that district. In October, they actually put somebody up against Sam. It was a rabbi named Robert Barr. Now, Barr seemed like a nice enough guy, but whenever the establishment literally went hunting for somebody because they weren't going to put anybody up against Shabbat. They had no plans on doing so until Sam announced he was running. And at that point, which we all know how it goes, Sam actually probably did stand a legitimate chance to win. And he was pretty much, I know there was one other FEC filing that's on record, but he was pretty much running unopposed. He was going to run on an anti-war platform. And I think that probably a lot of Ohio, specifically in the 1st District, would agree with that platform. Now, why is that important? Well, understand that congressional elections are more than about the elections that you or the year that you get elected in. It's about the 2020. It's about who's going to be in office, who's going to take those committee positions whenever X person takes over office. Now, understand something. Shabbat is on the Foreign Intelligence Committee. He's on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Um, Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Sam would end up on the Foreign Affairs Committee. But it does mean, however, that you're taking a war hawk off of the committee. And for both the Democratic establishment and the Republican establishment, that is a problem. That's a huge problem. You don't ever want to remove a 20 plus year veteran from the War Hawk Committee, because that's what I call it. But why do we think that this is specifically the Democrats? And it's because of how the local papers in Ohio have framed this incident. They obviously talk about the obstruction of official business because that was the original felony charge. And so, of course, that's what they're going to focus on. But they also go out of their way to say he was running as a Republican. He was running as a Republican. They don't talk about the fact that he was a Democrat and that he had to switch because of how corrupt the Democratic primary was. Because we all know, I've seen it not only obviously with Sam's situation, but campaigns that I've been personally involved in, that once the Democrats fear you, they're not going to let you run unopposed. They would rather use their establishment money to take you down and put a Republican in power than allow a progressive Democrat to hold a national level office. They don't want any more Tulsi Gabbards. They don't want any more Bernie Sanders. They don't want any more Nina Turners. Why do I think the Democrats were that focused on Sam? Well, they had someone, like I was saying, Robert Barr, who ran for all of 10 weeks. All of 10 weeks. He raised a lot of money. He was a rabbi, okay? So you can put two and two together. It wasn't hard for him to raise money. He was part of the Democratic establishment, so he was also raising money from the establishment side. And then out of nowhere, they replaced the guy. And I want to let you know the guy's name that they replaced him with. Aftab Purival. Young guy, 35 years old. But in the speech that the rabbi, Barr, the speech that he gave, he pretty much said, yeah, I really wanted to win. No, I didn't think I was going to be giving my seat or like my position up. But he stepped down. Aftab walked right into all of his funding, all of the infrastructure that the rabbi, Robert Barr, set up. Everything, all of his support. Obviously, Barr endorsed him in that speech. And now we have no idea, we know why, but in reality, we don't know why Barr was asked to step down outside of the reality that Aftab would have a better chance image-wise, identity politics-wise, to beat Shabbat. He's younger. He's more willing to play ball. He doesn't talk about anything of any type of substance. From what I can see about Robert Barr, he actually was a decent guy. I mean, he talks about a lot of key issues, especially the fact that neither the Democrats nor Republicans were representing us. And so with that, he was a little bit too testy for them. So that district that Sam is running in, that district was being eyed by the Democrats because of a position that seemed vulnerable, but also specifically because Sam, the person who was running formally for the DNC chair position, was in it and running as a Democrat after he had already gotten a lot of national attention and therefore would have a higher opportunity to fundraise and even potentially have people come up and volunteer for him that otherwise another Democratic candidate from Ohio would not have been able to do, just because Sam had been nationally recognized. And Ohio candidates aren't really, that well known. So all the reporters have been focusing all the attention on the fact that Sam ran as a Republican gave no context as to why he was running as a Republican, and then even made it seem as if it could have been Shabbat who did this to him. They don't talk about the fact that Sam was a progressive. Not in the reports that I've seen. They don't talk about the convolution behind the Democratic primary and why Sam had to leave. And now, obviously, the information that we just received about the Green Party is new, but once again, not surprising. Sam was in talks, or is, I should say, in talks with the Green Party about consulting for the Constance campaign for governor. This could very well be an intimidation tactic. Not only that, think about it like this. Sam clearly is not the type of person that will quit just because he lost the race. And in fact, it seems like he's willing to do whatever he has to stay involved and get progressive policies pushed through, whether that be working on behalf of the Green Party, working from within the Democratic Party, or working with the apparatus of the Republican Party. He seems like he's going to do whatever he has to do in order to get things done. Now, if he's working within the Green Party, at least that's what his contract had planned, that's what he planned on doing, it is highly likely that he would probably run again, knowing Sam. It's speculative, of course. I'm talking to his people, but this part is speculative. But just because I know Sam's not just going to stop running. And better yet, and still, he would probably run as a Green, because he is close with the Green Party's apparatus in that area. So if they do manage to get a Democrat in, which they believe is extremely plausible because of how vulnerable Shabbat's seat is, if they do manage to get this guy in, and Sam decides to run as a Green, best case scenario, Sam wins, but worst case scenario for us is that Sam takes enough votes away from the Democratic candidate that he doesn't win. He only stays in for one term, and they lose that seat once again to a Republican for another 20 years. So yeah, the election for Sam was over last month. However, not really. He's working within the Green Party. He's working with Constance. They're doing really well, actually. Granted, there's a lot of election rigging in Ohio, so I do want to be upfront about that. There's a lot of election rigging in Ohio. They have some pretty stringent election rules, but a lot of the rules do favor the Republicans, and Sam would present a problem for them. He just would. He has. Why do you think they ran someone to begin with and didn't announce it until October? Trump won in November of 2016. And they were perfectly fine not running someone against him in 2014. They tried in 2016 because everybody thought that all these positions were vulnerable because of Trump's campaign. It turned out to be the total opposite. And they didn't run anybody. They didn't even talk about anybody again until October 2017. And as you all know, Sam had been running for quite some time in that area. Pretty much almost right after the election was over. And then they replaced the guy that fundraised all the money with a younger guy who probably wouldn't have been able to do that in the very same district in February. And pretty much allowed him to run unopposed, 100% backed by the establishment. Now, Sam has garnered support from both the left, obviously, but also as a Republican, he won some people over. So transitioning to Green and combining that with the votes of the independents, then you do have a problem if you're the Democrats, don't you? So yes, this does look like intimidation. We do need to come up with a strategy to get Sam out of jail because $60,000 a piece, if it is an unsecured bond or a property bond, it's still going to be $45,000 to $50,000 to get him out. And I'm being not even realistic. I'm just that's being optimistic. It is, and it's only because I've been subjected to the corruption of this justice system far too many times to know they're not going to make it that easy. And by that I mean I don't think that they'll make his bonds unsecured. I think that they're trying to. You don't give somebody a $60,000 bond per charge unless you are trying to keep them in jail. And understand something, people. Judges are politicians. Judges oftentimes do select whether they're playing for the Democrats or playing for the Republicans. Sam is high profile. It takes one call to one judge to make sure that they're there on Saturday and say, hey, I need you to give this guy his arraignment. I need you to make sure he cannot get out, to help out with the election going forward with Constance and to discourage him from ever running again in Ohio. This happens. This is a regular thing. Like I know people want to believe that this is something that only happens in House of Cards or on television, but no. I worked with the gubernatorial campaign in North Carolina where they put plants into his campaign 2 years before the race even started, before he had even filed. 2 years. I worked within a campaign in North Carolina with the Bernie campaign where on the same team as myself, someone tried to convince me that my team member got fired, not knowing we were talking to each other. Where they lied to somebody at the national level in order to get that job, just so that they could come in and sabotage. This is normal. So Sam is being wronged. We are looking into ways to come up with some ways to get him out. Probably going to lead to a fundraiser. Probably going to need all of your support. And I hope that you all get behind Sam in the same way that you all got behind me in my time of need. It's not a coincidence that we're seeing some of our most notable political voices being attacked in all different types of ways, whether it's, being pulled over randomly. In my case, I was asked to get out of the car before I even was asked to present my license. And they couldn't have ran my tags because I was driving a rental car. Sam was asked to get out of the car. He was being yelled at the moment he got out of his vehicle. He was given BS charges. There are people I know who are having their internet cut, emails hacked, phone lines tapped. No doubt in my mind that Sam is probably on that FBI watch list just like I know I am. We are fighting the police state, and Sam is not someone who has been shy about condemning the police state. We've seen these recent incidents with human trafficking. Sam has not been shy about letting the world know where he stands in that position. So, whether or not you like him personally, whether or not you agree with him politically or disagree with him politically, whether or not you agree with his decision to run as a Republican or disagree with it, it's not about that. The truth of the matter is, our allies, this is what happens to allies. If he was their ally, Sam would not be arrested right now. Sam would be out of jail. Sam would probably hold elected office. But he's not. Whether or not you agree with him wholeheartedly or disagree with him, he is on our team. You can hash out the details later, but right now we need to get him out of jail and make sure that he is safe above anything else. Let's let that man get back to his family. That's interesting. Facebook just did some really weird pixel. I'm gonna take a picture of this shit and post it. Oh, really? Nice. The moment I go to take a picture of it, I'm looking at my Facebook feed, people, and it just gets really pixelated and like not like the normal pixelation. It's like someone just pressed a button and it went to shit. So, moral of the story is we're being watched. Our allies are being attacked. Our allies are being co-opted. And we need to fight back. We have to defend our own. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I will bring you more updates as I receive them. And try your hardest to keep your head up, Sam. We're rooting for you. We're fighting for you. And we're going to make sure to get you out in whatever way we can. Always remember, people, find your balance. Peace.